Yay.
So welcome everybody to this Conspiracy of Goodness Network workshop with Cheldin Barlatt Rumer. She is the founder, CEO, powerhouse behind This Is It TV. She is somebody who I think empowers more people than she could ever know to do work that is fulfilling and important in this world. She is a marketing genius, somebody who walked into our lives coincidentally and who has not ever walked out after that. She is somebody who has been so full of insights, so important to the ever widening circles and Conspiracy of Goodness journey. Truly somebody that I look up to, and someone who has an incredible story to share, and somebody who I think of all the marketing people I've ever heard from, of all of the people that we've worked with over the past 7-8 years of doing our work, somebody who not only gets the importance of doing good in the world and leading goodness through business, but also empowering people along the way to take their own stories and create something incredible out of them. And so I am so honored that Cheldin, you've joined us here tonight to talk about how we start to harness our voices to really make a difference in this world, and how we begin to do the work that's fulfilling in this world and get other people excited about it. Because I think that's one of the hardest things we can do, is take our passion and put it into the world in a way that other people get behind us. So Cheldin, that's just the start of all the accolades you have and what I would describe you as. I'll let you take over the rest of your intro and give you the floor from here. Basically, guys, the format that we'll do is 20-30 minutes of Cheldin speaking, and then we'll open up the rest of the hour to questions. So Cheldin, take it away for us.
Oh my goodness. I mean, see, you're going on tour with me, my friend. You're going on tour with me with that intro. I absolutely loved it. Well, thank you so much, guys, for having me. Again, my name is Cheldin Barlatt Rumer. I'm the CEO and executive producer of This Is It Network. We are a global digital network that connects remarkable women to inspiring stories. And so how I do that is through community, video content. Of course, Liesel's a regular in the madness in which we create. It's so important that we elevate our voices and tell these stories on a regular basis. I am committed to doing so, and for a number of different reasons as to why this all is the story of my own life. I'm naturally an extrovert. If you can't feel it through the screen, you will as this scenario continues. A lot of you may have to adjust your mobile devices and smartphones because of the volume of my voice. I echo in that space. It used to be a situation when we were in these live events that people would always say, I hear her. I haven't seen her yet, but I hear her. They used to hear me before they saw me. That was the essence of it. Cheldin's here somewhere. I know she's here somewhere. I hear her, even when they did not see me. And that has always been a natural thing. I was a loud child, and therefore I'm a loud adult. But I know that I am outnumbered by those that are introverts. I'm outnumbered by individuals who rather act than say. And so what it is that I've created really helps whether you're an extrovert or you're an introvert in finding your voice and elevating it. And so for me, as I was beginning what was my career, I was in hospitality marketing, graphic design, web design, event planning, right? Perfect for an extrovert. And what I found when I started my own agency in 2009, I was working with a lot of female entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs in general. And what would happen is they would sit across from me in this conference room table, and they would tell me that they were starting a bakery. And I was overly enthusiastic, as I typically am, about what it is that they were doing. And then I would challenge them. I would ask them, tell me, why should someone buy your chocolate chip cookie versus someone else's? And they could not part their lips 9 times out of 10 as to why somebody should buy their chocolate chip cookie. They could not tell me why theirs was better. They could not tell me the uniqueness of their product or service. They could not tell me the features and benefits that made them and gave them value. And I thought that was tragic. Somebody, again, who was overly enthusiastic about just about everything, now in front of someone who had not only the experience, but the drive to create something. Because again, entrepreneurs, whether it's nonprofit or not, quit a 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours a week. And to sacrifice all of that, they remortgaged their home twice for the chocolate chip cookie. They haven't seen their friends or family for that chocolate chip cookie. And then when I ask them why somebody should buy it, they can't part their lips to tell me. And I thought that was awful. I would ask them, how long have you been doing this? And they would repeat to me, oh, well, 4 years. Could not part their lips to tell me why. I would ask them, what is your experience? They would say, I have a PhD. Could not part their lips to tell me why. Could not part their lips to share their experience or their enthusiasm even for what it is that they had sacrificed to do. And I, at that point, was committed. I knew that it was important for me to ensure that people no longer whispered their wishes, but they in fact screamed their dream. So that was my mission in life. I was going to help people in finding their voice. Now, as an agency, I didn't have a digital network. We were helping them with graphic design, web design, social media, event planning, and publicity. But I was always a documenter before that was a thing. Before people were taking pictures of their burgers in a restaurant, I always carried around a camera. And so I pulled out from my dusty bag a camera that I had used when I had delusions of grandeur of being on MTV. Remember what MTV was when they played music? It was really my calling to host MTV Spring Break. That's what I was meant to do, to introduce Eminem on a beach in Cancun. That's what I was called to do, until I realized that I'd have to MC dog fashion shows in Milwaukee before I got the chance to be on MTV. I changed my course when I took one marketing course and decided, oh, this is how they make money, and decided to pour my career into publicity and marketing. But I always loved the development and production of content. It wasn't called content at the time. It was just pictures and videos. But now it's content. And so what I did is I pulled out that camera. I turned it on myself and my client, and we did fake interviews. We pretended. I pretended I was Oprah. I will meet her one day. I pretended that I was channeling her in all of her glory. And I was asking questions as if we were sitting in a big studio. And I automatically realized that the shoulders of my guest, or what would have been my client, began to drop. She found her voice. I allowed her space in order for her to scream her dream. She started laughing about her journey and the recipe and where it came from, and baking with her grandmother at age 5. That was her reason. That was why somebody should buy her chocolate chip cookie, and she didn't even know it. She had possessed it the whole time. It wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't a slogan. It was her story. And oftentimes people do not give themselves permission in order to share their story. People don't think that their story is enough. They need to do buy one, get one. They need to buy a billboard. They need to do all of these excessive things in order to gain the attention that they deserve. At that point, I knew that, no pun intended, that was it, that I would spend the rest of my life creating content, telling stories, documenting other people's journeys, and ensuring that people elevated their voices, that they had a comfortable space in order for that to happen, but also knowing that not all spaces are comfortable, right? You go on Fox Good Day, the talk show, it's not Cheldin making you feel warm and fuzzy. You're feeling intimidated, the lights, they're sweating on you. You're nervous about what it is that you're about to say or what it is you're going to forget to say. So for me, it was really important that I gave people the tools in order for them to scream your dream. Believe me, it started as a hashtag. I overused it. And people asked me after I was creating this content and interviewing more than 5 to 6 people per day, they said, okay, I love Scream Your Dream, but how do I do it? How do I actually scream? How do I find my voice? How do I elevate my voice? And for me, it's very, very simple. I mentioned before we started recording that my father has a very unique look and perspective on what it is that I do. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. He is a West African chemist, right? So I was originally born in West Africa. I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And my family, their work ethic is beyond. I come from a world of academics. My father has his PhD in chemistry and was a college professor, now retired. My mother was an elementary school principal. My older sister is a consultant in DC. My baby sister has her PhD in engineering. My baby brother graduated from Cornell Law. I talk to myself on Facebook every day. That's what I do, right? So Thanksgiving and the holidays are always quite interesting, and everybody scratches their temple and said, Cheldin, are you okay? Who pays you is usually how the conversation goes. But ultimately, my gift is to be able to elevate the voices of others. And so in an academic space, for all of you that come from that academic space, we tend to speak at the level in which our accreditation gives us. We tend to have conversations that are full of jargon and depth, with the assumption that the average person will understand it, digest it, and be able to repeat it. The scenario that I'm going to share with you is one of simplicity. It's not to take away from your pedigree or your achievements or your degrees, but it is in order for you to be heard and what it is that you are saying to be duplicated and shared. It is one thing for you to know and possess what it is that you have in between your ears, but it's the other thing to share it and then for someone else to share it. That is where the power begins. That is, in essence, a movement. But if no one understands what you are saying, and if you are not saying anything, no one can move at all. So what I want for us to do is to begin to think of how do we begin our story. I call it your unique equation. Your unique equation is made up of who you are, what you want, and why you deserve it. Who you are, what it is that you want, and why. Who you are is such an important part, just like grandma and that secret recipe for those chocolate chip cookies. The fundamental difference between anything is based on who you are, what it is that you want, and why specifically you are the person to deliver it. We forget about the uniqueness. We think it's about the product, silly. You think it's about the service. No, no. People don't buy products or services. They buy personalities and experiences. And your ability to communicate your personality and experience will be the differentiating factor each and every time. Your unique equation is your power. Understanding who you are, being clear on what it is that you want, and being able to justify why you deserve it. Now, who you are, the most simplest fact. Focus on your life facts, things that make you you, that are undisputable. Things that no one can argue with. I just mentioned to you that I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa. I'm an immigrant. No one can take that away from me. It's an amazing conversation starter and part of the uniqueness of my personal brand. Even though I don't run on purpose anymore, I was a Division I athlete. I played field hockey and ran track for LaSalle University in Philadelphia. That is fact. There's a uniqueness to being a collegiate athlete and performing in a Division I space. There's a conversation that starts with that. It shows dedication and teamwork and leadership. It's part of my life facts. I'm also lucky enough to be a mom. I have a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. Craziness, potty training, disaster. So that's also a life fact. Again, time management, leadership, all of the things that are required in order to be a mom. Those are 3 things that belong to me. They're not up for discussion. They're not arguments. There are things in which I can use to create a story. There's 3 things in which I know bring about skill sets that I can apply to what it is that I'm doing. I also need you to think about your strengths, things that you are good at. This is the time for you to be able to recognize something that you are good at, right? Something that makes you uniquely you. Again, I'm an extrovert. I can talk to anyone in a produce section. I can create a conversation with everyone at any time. That is a strength of mine. I thought it was just a kind of unique thing, but it is my strength. I realize that other people do not have that, and I'm going to utilize that. So the combination of my life facts and my strengths, whether you are a leader, whether you have the ability to multitask, whether you are organized, all of these things belong to you. Independently, they could be shared with other people. There's other people that were born in Freetown, Sierra Leone. There's other people that were Division I athletes, but the combination is the uniqueness. The combination of that unique equation is what makes you who you are. And lastly, it's recognizing in who you are. You're also your weaknesses. I know that I'm outnumbered by people on this call that are very good at math. My darling, my friends, I am not. You are not going to call me for an Excel sheet. You want me to have nothing to do with your spreadsheet. No, no, no. I am not the one. I am not balancing anything. I have 3 siblings that are perfect at doing all of those things, but I can do the toast at mom and dad's birthday. I know what my strengths are, but I also know what my weaknesses are. Weaknesses are to be addressed, not to dwell on them, but to recognize them and to let them go. There used to be a time when I spent 3 days trying to create a complicated P&L, 3 days of my life, because I was convinced that I would get it, that I would understand it, that if I tried hard enough, or if I maneuvered things hard enough, I would get it. I surrendered and called my baby sister. And I said, Ada, could you please just make this into a spreadsheet and make this add up to this? Obnoxiously, after 72 hours of my difficulty, 20 minutes later, it arrived. 20 minutes later, this woman cut and pasted and created the most beautiful document. I would never get those 72 hours back. But now I know that I give my weaknesses to others who applaud and celebrate them. She loved it. She wanted to explain every cell. I didn't care. I just needed it to be done, right? But she loved it and thrived in that space. And so who am I to deny her Excel? Never again. I will gladly send her those links and have her thrive in her space, as she no longer and never wants to give the speech or toast at the birthday party, right? So it's about living in your space and in the confidence. She, with confidence, can explain every cell of that document. She can tell me why this summed up to this and walk me through it where I cannot. It is a beautiful thing to recognize your strengths and let go of the things that are not really strong in your space. Let go of those weaknesses. It frees you up. The analogy, and you'll hear a lot of analogies with me, but you only have, if you're lucky, 2 arms, and you can only carry a finite amount of things. And so if you are carrying your weaknesses around, there is no room for additional strengths. And so you must put things down so you can carry what it is that you deserve. So in addition to telling that story about who it is you are, you must address what it is that you want. I think that so often we are not clear on our objectives. We don't know what we want. And oftentimes we're one of 2 things. We either focus on our short term or focus on the long term. I'm a daydreamer. So I have grandiose ideas again of being on spring break for MTV, and I could see it. I could feel the wind and the sand between my toes. I could dream it so vividly. And then, but the problem is that I wasn't planning my short-term goals. What did I have to do today to get there? So it's about addressing both at the same time. It's about looking at what I call your tattoo goals. Your tattoo goal is something that is permanently etched, something that can only be surgically removed, something that you dream up, something that you want so badly, you can see it, you can taste it, you can feel it. The challenge in your tattoo goal is that you must also have sticker goals. Sticker goals are things that just have to adhere for a significant period of time. They can't blow off with the wind, but they are not etched on your tombstone. They are just there so you can gradually put one sticker on top of another until you get to your tattoo. You must identify both. I was easily distracted as a young entrepreneur. I would follow what I call the bouncing ball. Somebody would call me and say, Cheldin, I have an amazing idea. We should do this. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, okay, we have to do this. Okay. And I found myself being distracted because I wasn't following my stickers. I was being diverted from left to right, and I wasn't staying focused. I knew who I was, but I wasn't following my goals as it relates to what it is that I wanted. Your tattoo and your stickers keep you at your destination. Each sticker, look at it this way. Your tattoo is the destination on your journey. If you are following GPS, which I barely do, the rest stops along the way are those stickers. It affords you the ability to check in. Am I moving in the right direction? Am I going properly in the right movement of things? Once you get that basis, all of these things will allow for you to begin to tell your story. So you understand who you are, your life facts, your strengths, and you avoid your weaknesses. You identify what you want, your tattoo goal, long-term, big goals. And then equally your sticker goals, right? We'll talk about what that looks like in your day-to-day of things, because I want you to leave with an execution plan as to what that really looks like for you. Lastly, I want you to think about why you deserve it, or why you're doing this in the first place. Why are you doing this in the first place, and why do you deserve it? The majority of us hate to brag. That's what we call it, right? I don't like to brag, but... and then we follow it up with 20 years experience. I don't want to sound conceited, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I have a PhD. I've started 3 businesses. This is my 7th location, but I don't want to brag. But the problem in that whole thing is that those out there less worthy, those out there that have less experience, those out there that have less positive intention have no problems bragging boldly. They have no problems pounding their chest and sharing their mediocrity as you humbly sit without revenue, without clients, not wanting to brag. Screaming your dream isn't about yelling for the sake of yelling. It's about finding your voice with intention. It's about gaining the attention that you need in order to get closer to what it is that you want day by day through your stickers to get to your tattoo. The day-to-day is important in understanding and elevating your voice. Oftentimes we are overwhelmed because it's too much. There's too much going on. There's too many platforms. There's too much to do, right? And I'm still a note writer. I don't know if any of you are Puritans like myself that still write notes, right? Exactly. So I'm writing things down. And I used to be in the space where I used to write to-do lists. I know I'm not alone. To-do lists. And they were pages and pages and pages of to-do lists. My daughter is 10, and on it was go and look for colleges for Sydney Rachel. It's unnecessary. It doesn't belong on my to-do list, at least not today. So now, as it relates to my stickers, I create a today list. It only has 5 things. It should only have 5 things. And it affords us the ability to stay focused on the sticker goals of our life. This is what I need to do today in order to get to my long-term goal. If I do more than 5 things, I am a genius. If I do less, that's okay. Tomorrow is a new day. But today, I have a today list. No more internal pressures of a to-do list. A today list is what it is that I need. So as we create this unique equation, who you are, what you want, and why you deserve it, you want to make sure that you are figuring out ways in order to address all of the deserve it's in a simple way. As you can tell now, I'm the queen of analogies. And so one of the ways that you determine why you deserve it is creating your highlight reel. Now, I love live music, and slowly live music will be returning. I'm slightly obsessed with John Bon Jovi. I want no judgment. I think he would be my friend. I think he would enjoy my company. I love him. I've seen him like 8 times. It literally is a problem. What we would do when we went to concerts is that I would listen to John, because we're on the first name basis. I would listen to him in the car. Of course, because there was cold beverages, I would listen to him in the parking lot, right? And then we would go into the concert and I would listen to his music there. And what I expected was his greatest hits, right? If he got to that microphone and was like, we've been playing with this in the garage, I'm like, I don't want to hear your garage music. I want to hear all of my favorite songs. I want to hear all of the songs in which I know every single word to. That's what I need, John. I don't want this to be an experiment. I paid to park, John. I need you to give me all of the greatest hits. That's what I want. The people that are out there listening to you, the people that are out there that want to hear your voice, the people that are out there that you have the ability to serve, that will be your client, that will be part of your community, want the best of you. You may think, oh, I told them that already. Because though I listened to the music on the way there, I listened to it in the parking lot, and I need to hear it again. Marketing is repetition. Branding is repetition. We want to believe that, well, I said that already. Oh, that's how we learn. That's how we learn all of the words to the song, is because we've played it over and over and over again. And the individuals who need to hear your voice, the individuals who appreciate your journey, will replay you constantly. But you've got to determine what your greatest hits are. You've got to determine a little bit of those life facts mixed with a little bit of those strengths, and you've got to reiterate it to them over and over again. The wins that you've had, release the losses that you've had, and elevate your voice with your unique equation. It's about being specific. It's about being, dare I say, basic. We tend to overcomplicate things in order to prove our intelligence in a room, but the goal is not to prove how smart we are. The goal is to ensure that with intention, we deliver the message that can not only be heard, but duplicated. So let's talk about that. When we simplify what it is that we say, the movement and what it is that we want isn't about the person who hears me. So in fact, it's not about those that are even listening now. It's about you saying, oh my goodness, I was part of the conspiracy of goodness, and I listened to this crazy lady that talked really fast and wore red lipstick. You've got to be able to pay attention. I think her name was Cheldin, something like that, right? It's the power of the conversation that happens in your absence. As an academic myself, I'm an adjunct professor at both Temple University in Philadelphia, as well as Drexel University. I teach personal branding at Temple and social media strategy at Drexel. And I tell my students that personal branding is what people say and think about you in your absence. That is the power of your voice? Can your voice be duplicated? Meaning not somebody pretending to be you, but your voice being shared with other people. It's not about the person that you are speaking to, it's about others who speak about you. And do you give them enough information in order for that to happen? When I was in the hospitality business, I'd work with these amazing chefs, and I've worked with all different types of celebrities, but chefs are by far the most difficult, just FYI. For any chefs that are listening, I hear you, I see you, I'm sorry. I'm already apologizing, okay? So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm gonna work with these amazing chefs. I'm gonna eat all the time. They're going to love me. And we were the publicists that swooped on in, and they were hands folded, white coats, just mad at me. And I would say, I have some suggestions for the menu. Not a very good meeting. But the suggestion was just say mushroom. There was a long 12-letter, 14-letter word for some obscure mushroom. And I said, we need to change. It just needs to say mushroom, chef, because you had to call him chef, because you had to. So you need just say mushroom on the menu. No, it's this mushroom. It's from this place. I curated it from that space. Yes, my darling, but no one can pronounce that. And what happens when there are menu items in which you cannot pronounce? The general public just simply skips and goes to the polo. Now, is it fair that we have to be challenged in the delivery? No, but they will eat the mushroom in that particular delicious dish, and they will ask, what type of mushroom is that? And you will have an opportunity at that point to educate them. And is that a fair journey? No. But we have to determine what our goals are. What is our sticker goal? Our sticker goal is to sell the dish. Our tattoo goal is to educate them on the uniqueness of this mushroom. Will we sell the dish if we challenge their vocabulary in an ill-lit restaurant? No, we won't sell the dish. And that amazing masterpiece in which they literally scoured the earth to find that mushroom will go wasted and unappreciated. Is it fair? No. But our goal is to elevate our voice so we can create movement. And I don't want you to believe that I'm asking you to simplify in a negative way. I'm asking you to simplify so we can get things done. Simplify so we can reach people, so we can make impact, so your voice can be shared, so that can be elevated, so we can be able to create environments in a utopian space. But before we get there, we must be received and digested. They must feel confident enough to speak about it in our absence. If they begin, right? Think about things in which you trip over. And again, the people that are on this call that are listening to me are intellects. We're smart folks, right? We can handle jargon and big vocabulary. But do we want to be challenged on our vocabulary? Are we hesitant to share things that we don't quite understand? Of course. So we must make it easy for people to digest. The most complex scenarios, I think, in life really boil down to the ability to communicate them effectively for the audience in which is receiving them. I think we overtalk and therefore get misunderstood. Our intentions get lost in our language. And what we need to do is elevate voices in which people can understand. Once they've adopted what it is that we are saying, because we've given them an opportunity to do so, then we can educate them in so many different ways. So many different ways. They will be loyal to our personality and the experience that we provide. They won't be concerned about the product, service, or the price, because we have given them a safe place to feel comfortable, a safe place for them to learn. This Is It Network really came from that, right? I grew up on talk shows. I don't know, again, I'm aging myself, but I grew up on not only Oprah, but Donahue and Sally Jesse Raphael and all of these old talk shows. Oh my gosh, I'm truly aging myself. And what has happened in media is that that genre of what I call educational entertainment has been replaced with reality TV. Right? And so it's an angry, aggressive, maybe entertaining, but very different approach and voice. For a half hour, 45 minutes, you're not learning anything. You're just being distracted, right? Educational entertainment made people smarter without them knowing it. Gave them inroads to things in which they would otherwise never know about in their small towns and what those respective states. All of that was gone. And there was no place for you to soak up more knowledge. Everything was, combative and angry. And then therefore that became truth. What you want to do with your voice is to be able to provide a new truth, your truth. People always are, this is so negative. This is so negative. I truly believe, and maybe I'm an optimist, that the same energy that the darkness uses, the light can use as well. And whatever positive notions that you have, you should say as aggressively as you possibly can in order to be heard. You should scream and share with enthusiasm your messages in a way that they can be delivered and duplicated. So the positivity that you want to share, the mission that you want to share, the movement that you need to start can move without you. That is what I'm telling you you need. So once you've identified all of these things, lastly, it needs to live somewhere. I know I'm overly enthusiastic, and frankly, I overshare. I'm not asking you to post 20 times a day like I do. I have a need. It's a problem, slightly, right? And I'm not asking you to do that because I work with a number of people. And again, I am outnumbered by introverts, and I am not asking you to become the next social media darling. But what I am asking you to do is to be found. People cannot help you. They cannot compensate you. They cannot retain your services if they cannot find you. You don't have to post every day, but your brand needs to live somewhere. It needs to live in a reliable place where people can reference it, where you can control your messages and you can tell your story. So when I say to you, Laura, I know Laura, she's amazing. And then the first thing someone does is Google you. I want to make sure that where it lives is consistent with what I just said about you. It doesn't have to be every day and posting every second of the day. It just has to exist. The majority of our lives are run through references and referrals. As of yet, I have not wrapped a bus with my face, and nor have I put my face on a billboard. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying it hasn't happened as of yet. Right? And so therefore, I am not advertising in that way. It is literally Liesl telling people that she's met me and I build relationships. That's how movements happen. But you need to make sure that there is enough information to justify the voice that you are sharing. So in your absence, your voice speaks for you. The referral is justified. The relationship is strengthened. And you're able to form new relationships and share new stories through the voice that you have elevated. You don't have to overshare, but it has to exist. What happens when you go and look for a restaurant in which does not have a social media platform or hasn't posted since 2016? You think it's condemned. You think that it's no longer in existence. Meanwhile, they just haven't had time to update their page. I'm not saying that you have to overshare, but you have to show that you are open. You have to show that you are existing in the space. And whether that's once a month or once a week, there just needs to be some opportunity. Some of you are maybe concerned about what your voice looks like online. Maybe have had some mistakes or not so favorable, or you want to reduce the spelling bee photo that wasn't so favorable. The internet is a living, breathing thing. The more you feed her, the nicer she is to you. So begin to do things that are consistent with the brand in which you want in order for that to show up. It's very rare that people go to the second page of Google. So make sure that whatever it is that you are doing rises to the top by you participating. Again, don't have to overshare, but you have to share. The goal of elevating your voice is to first find it, be authentic in it, be sure that you are understanding your unique equation, who you are, what you want, and why you deserve it. Finding your greatest hits, the highlights of your career, being willing to repeat them over and over until people know them by heart. Brag boldly about what it is that you've got going on. There's a saying that I refuse to use that in the beginning, in the infancy, it's very 90s, early 2000s, this fake it till you make it madness that people want you to believe is a thing. That is not a thing. There's no such thing as fake it till you make it. A plastic bag will never be a Louis Vuitton, period. Simple, end of discussion. There's no way, right? But you will get better. You will be stronger. You will gain more skills. So meet people where you are in the most authentic of nature. Faking it is exhausting. Pretending to be someone else is exhausting. There are clients that need you exactly as you are. There are people that need the services and expertise you have at this moment. There's no reason to get got. There's no reason for you to be quizzed on things in which you are ill prepared. You just need to be exactly who you are. And when you do that, it's easier for you to share your voice. It's so easy to be you when you accept who it is. And so the last thing that I have to say for those of you that are like, hey, Cheldin, it's difficult. Now, it is. I'm not saying, especially for you introverts out there, that this is going to be something, well, I went to this workshop and now I'm Cheldin 2.0. No, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case. What I am saying is that just like anything else, it takes practice. I say to my students all of the time, and I'll say to you, how do you feel when you have studied for a test? You get that test, you're like, I got this, I know this. I know the capitals, no problem, no problem. But how do you feel when you haven't studied for a test? You start to get nervous, you're looking at the clock, you're blaming your roommate's cat, all of the things are happening, right? And that's how we're feeling when we are asked, oh, so what do you need? Or how can I do to help you? It's like, because you haven't practiced. Even though it is not a natural muscle for you to know who you are, what you want, why you deserve it, to share it, to brag boldly. Even though it is not natural for you, very few things ever are. We had to practice to walk before we began to run, yes? So we must practice. And just like every major athlete, right? Serena Williams, as amazing as she is, still practices 6 days a week. This is something that requires you to practice. I'm an extrovert. I love to talk, but I'm very, very thankful that cars have Bluetooth, because now I just talk to myself and not look crazy. I look as if I'm talking to someone, but meanwhile, I'm just reciting what it is I'm about to say. Practice is okay. Practice is necessary. We all do it. Those of us that are seasoned and those of us that are beginners. So cut yourself a break. Afford yourself the practice, surround yourself with a community and network such as this, so you can actually work on your voice. Communities like this afford you the ability to test out your language, to share those links, to be able to get in touch with other individuals like-minded to see if what you're saying is consistent with what the community needs. Your confidence will build as you practice and as you begin to hone in to who it is that you are, what it is that you want, and why it is that you deserve it. When you do that, you will no longer whisper your wishes and you will begin to scream your dream. Thanks so much, guys. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much, Cheldin. I wrote 35 pages of notes. I have to tell you guys, like, I have talked with Cheldin almost every month for the past almost year.
Yeah.
And like, still every time you say these things, it's like they hit me right between the eyes. It really just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Cheldin, really.
Of course. It's not easy. It's not an easy, it's not an easy thing. Even for those of us that are fools that are like, oh my gosh, is an avocado ripe? Like in the store, like a crazy person. Like, it's not like, you still prepare, especially if it means something to you, right? If what you are about to say is life-changing, life-dependent, if it's your life work, it should mean something. You should feel something before you say it. You should. And that's when you know you should say it. That's what I believe.
Yeah. Well, I want to open it up for questions. If people need a minute to ruminate, I do have a question for you, Cheldin. And guys, if you can either ask them kind of just raise a hand or throw them in the chat and I can ask them that, Cheldin. Actually, that's probably the better way of doing it. If you've got a question, throw them in the chat and I can field them for us. But okay, cool. Cheldin, my first question that I have is, like, I think a lot of us who go into work are not natural salespeople. We're natural or like passionate about what we do, right? And speaking as someone who's a deep aversion to being like, blah, 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 now buy my book, or blah, 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 now join the network that I run. Even I running it, I have the hardest timing, like, please join the network. It's the obvious thing. People just got a lot of value out of what we were doing, but I am so bad at taking that next step. And I feel like it's super disingenuous. So what can you how can you help us think
Yeah.
through that
Yeah.
feeling and keep the message genuine? That's I think
Yeah.
my aversion to it when I see it happen over and over again, is you
Yeah.
can tell the sales pitch is coming
Yeah.
from a mile away. You're like, it's coming. And then
Always.
even if I like the thing, I'm dodging.
Always.
How do I handle that?
Always. I say it to tell and not sell, always. Right? So you're always going to be telling stories, and you're not ever going to be selling anything. Ever. Zero things. So I don't even think salespeople should be called salespeople. I think that at the end of the day, you are telling a story that leads. So this is what, one of the things, I do everything in threes. A lot of it has to do with the fact that I was born on September 3rd, but there's some madness to it. So everything is really about being as simplified as you possibly can, giving yourself the 3 nuggets, the 3 reasons why there's value here. And you just tell them that it's available. Just tell them. Just tell them it's available. You don't have to be, don't even have to say, join us. We're having an event on this day. Here's the link, right? The join us is the kinder version, but it's the awareness that really gives us the power, right? I'm sharing this with you instead of I'm selling this to you. Does that make sense? So it's very much more about the sharing. I have this opportunity. I'm doing this thing. And because I know, like, and trust you, I want to be part of the thing too. What thing are you doing? Right? It's that nosy kind of scenario. What are you up to? We just launched this thing. We always get a lot more engagement when we're just announcing something versus being by something. Click here, enter, right? In that space, because we now have to become storytellers. Now, the next time we want them to be able to purchase something, we want to lead with a story. Whether you're highlighting a member within the community, whether you're highlighting the benefit of becoming a member, highlighting the benefit of, utilizing the services, what you've been able to do, what you're capable of doing, it's the tell and not sell. Whenever you feel salesy, take the sell out of it and just tell people what you're offering. Oh, we just launched this thing, right? It's more, it changes your demeanor physically, right? Oh, my mom and I just launched this thing. Everyone in service just launched this thing. Did you check it out? Here's the link. It's a different conversation than we'd love for you to join, right? That's a different space, especially when you're physically networking face to face, but definitely even in the email chains of things, right? I think that we think that people buy, because the majority of all of the transactions we've done in life never came with a PowerPoint, right? It's just because I got a guy that does this thing and he came over and then he fixed this thing, right? It wasn't like a back and forth. It wasn't, 6 estimates, And even if that's the initial case, it never happens again, right? Because then you got the guy, right? So even if you audition 4 plumbers, and then now you just call John, and whatever it is, John, it is. Like, right? And then we don't even think about it anymore, even in the beginning of it. So I think that it's really about being matter of fact, not taking it lightly. There's still severity in what it is that you're telling, but I think it's really about approaching it from a space of, I'm going to let you be aware of this, like, and trust me, I'm going to let you be aware of what I have going on. And I always find that tends to work a little bit better. The transactions are transactions. At a certain point, you're going to have to send the link and you're going to have to say, purchase. But I think that the soft serve is to tell them and then have them, what has happened to me is that, send me that link, oh yeah, I totally want to sign up, that kind of thing. Or if they don't, they at least, it's a positive interaction, and they're feeling wide open to re-engage later. There's a number of different people. Also, just to be honest, this used to get me in the beginning. I used to go to these networking events and feel very empty when I got back because there was no transactions happening, right? Like nobody wanted to buy anything. Like, oh my gosh, all of that warm hummus for nothing. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't doing, like nothing was happening. You know what I'm talking about? I'm like,
the warm hummus.
I do not miss the sad little crudités and like the name that I do not miss them at all. You know what I mean? I love my
anyway, warm ranch. Can't do it.
Soggy carrots. But anyway, so I would feel really like sad, but then ultimately understanding the conversations about you in your absence, I looked at those opportunities again as telling those people so they had enough information to tell other people. I wasn't even concerned. I was literally creating messengers. That's how I look at networking events. I'm going to tell all these people so they can, with no expectation for John, Jim, or Emily. I have no expectation of them buying anything. I just want you to be armed so you could go tell people what I'm doing.
Mm.
And that's a different space. I found that some of them bought, from me in that moment because I wasn't selling them. I was just sharing with them. This is what I have going on. I'm so excited about it. Oh, get me more information. They were asking, it just changed it. And it's a mental thing. It's not necessarily even a tactful thing. It's like me convincing myself it's not a sale and it's just a story. But it works for me.
I love that. I love that idea of like, it's not a sell, it's a story.
It's a story. Oh my gosh, we just launched this thing. Oh, tell me about it. Was it hard? Oh my gosh, it was so hard. And then again, when you do that, it adds the value, right? Because you're telling them how you created it. So that it's not like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like it's, oh my gosh, it's this big deal. And it's $1,500. Oh, of course it's $1,500. You've been working on it for 2 years. You know what I mean? It justifies the value of what it is that you're doing too. Do you know what I mean? Because when we play it light, where we're like, oh, it's just this thing. I'm just doing that, can't. Well, it's just this thing. I just threw it together, which is a lie. Then they're like, oh, no big deal. Like it's too expensive, right? And the other thing about that is that I truly believe your voice is not for everyone. I truly believe those that you're meant to work with hear you and see you differently. I do. And I think we spend too much time trying to make people who are not worthy of our voice fluent in our language. We tried so different, like, oh, do you get it? Do you get it? No, Stanley does not get it. And so we must move on. Like Stanley will never get it. He was never going to be your client. I don't care if he's your cousin, your uncle, your husband, he doesn't understand. So that same energy that you're using to convince Stanley, you could have just had 7 positive conversations with people who understand what you're saying. Right. And so that was something that I had to learn because and I'm also very competitive, shocker. So I was like, I will convince you that I make sense. I will convince you that this is worth buying. And I was like, Stanley's never buying anything. And I frankly don't like Stanley. So I'm done. And I'm going to go find somebody else. Right. And so it's just, there's only 24 hours in the day. I've tried to squeeze in 26, but there's only 24. And so I'm not wasting my time. And if you don't understand me, that's why it's important. Because I do believe that there are people that would understand if we simplified things, right? If we simplified things and made it direct, they will be thirsty for more. It's kind of lead the horse to water and then let them drink, right? So get them excited about it in a way in which, and even the most intelligent intellectuals, we busy, right? We're scrolling, and it's not for a lack of intelligence, but to be digested, right? There's a reason why all of our favorite, consumer products, goods, fast food, all have value meals. It's not because you can't buy French fries by themselves, but it's easier to buy a number 1 than to pick it yourself, right? So are you making it convenient for your product or service to be digested, right? And therefore being able to create more transactions. They're selling more just by bundling them up. It doesn't mean that you can't get a latte off of whatever it is that they're offering. It's just they know what human nature is. And I'll just take a number 3, a large, an apple pie, like just really in that space, right? You didn't need the large drink. You didn't want it. You just, that kind of scenario, you can order off the menu, but those value menus, and we all know they imploded in the space. Like, yes. You can't get you can get a coffee by itself. You can get a bagel but I'll just get a number 2. I'll just get a number 1, right? And so are you creating that value meal for what you're offering? Are you making it easy for people to buy from you, to know about you? And again, they're not like, here are all our value meals. They just put it up there. You drive up and you're like, I'll take a 3. No one sold you. They just told you what they had and how you can buy it. And so that, I think, is really important. And then also small businesses and entrepreneurs don't run campaigns, right? We just buy everything at all times, like we're just kind of like out there. It's really important for you to segment your offerings. So if it's a situation, just like Starbucks will have the chai latte, right? That doesn't mean you can't get a black coffee. That just means we're focused on the chai latte, right? So we have to really direct the individuals into what it is that you're doing. So even if you're offering a service or an event, focus in that space, it allows for you to control and elevate your voice in a specific area, and then also allows for you to see if it works.
Man, that's perfect. That's such a perfect way to say it, because I think we create, and sometimes you forget. You just say the number one thing, just say the most interesting thing on your menu, and then people will find the rest. They'll find the rest of the menu. I want to leave it open. If Laura or Louisa have a last question to throw at Cheldin. I know that we've had just the most astounding
unapologetically a lot, but
I think it's great. I think it's incredible.
You guys are great. Oh, I think
Laura, you're muted, but yes.
It's okay. Can you unmute her? Maybe you can.
I can ask to unmute. There we go.
I was trying to do the space bar thing. Okay, it didn't work. Anyway, you're supposed to be able to press that and talk, but whatever. I wanted to just say thank you, because I've heard of doing a 30-second commercial about yourself, like when you're doing a job interview, or just wanting to be selected for any group that you're going for. And that always put a lot of pressure on me, because I was like, how do you talk about yourself in 30 seconds? People are so much more complex than that. And the way you explained how to share who I am and what I believe and what I stand for in chunks of time with different people, like that made it more doable and more palatable. And I just want to say thank you. I liked how you shared it. I took notes and I wrote a little comment thing. If you want to use it, you can. But like I just wrote what I thought. So
thank you so
I didn't
much.
even know about like personal branding and how like that meant like who you are and how people talk about you when you're not in the room. That's a neat thing. So, and it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And it applies whether or not you own a business or you just want to get promoted, right? That's how you get a job for anything. I talk to my students or even adults. That's how we function. The average person isn't putting out an ad saying, I want to work at an ice cream shop. It's like, my niece needs a job. Is she responsible? Yes. She can scoop ice cream. She's got it, right? That's how it happens. Like usually by the time it gets to Indeed or Monster, it's based on necessity, right? Like usually they're like, you got somebody for a copywriter? Okay, call my cousin. Like that's usually how it happens. And so the majority of our relationships are based on the referrals of others. It's not fair, but if we arm them with the information we want them to know, that's authentic and we can back up. Amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing what will happen for you and to you. All of my relationships are based on referrals. Every last one of them. Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. That means so much to me.
Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So what a wonderful explanation and statement. And I guess my question is, I love that concept. But how would you make that work if I have a network that's, I think, a really good group of people, but they're all very distant from each other. Right. So, they can't necessarily work together as much to spread the word out, or they're not in the same communities. Right. Is that better or worse?
It depends on what you want them to do, right? It depends on what you want them to do. I would never underestimate anything by geographic location, right? Because you don't know. I say this all the time. You just don't know where people will be. You don't know where people will be. You don't know how they will function. You don't know. I mean, I used to do some things in entertainment with events, and I ran into somebody who sat next to me in 4th grade in a lobby of a Hyatt in LA when we grew up in Southern New Jersey. Do you know what I'm saying? And she was like, oh my gosh, you got to meet my boss. And now I talk to her boss. I don't talk to her. Right. So it's all of those degrees of separation. And I say this so much to, from a networking standpoint, also, when people are asking about, how do I get in front of the right people? And how do I, create my story and tell my story to the right people? So often they're trying to network up. I'm a component of networking from side to side, right? So the guy that was the busboy when I was a hostess now owns the restaurant group, right? And so that's the truth of the space. And so understanding and staying connected to classmates and other employees and people that you've been with. I think so often people are like, I'm on LinkedIn, emailing the CEO. I'm like, of course he's not emailing you back. Email the assistant, email the manager, email the like-minded position and be like, do you like working there? Love to meet with you to talk about, you know, what it is that you like about this company. They're more apt to get back to you and just be like, oh, I love it, or run, you know what I mean? One way or the other in that way. And I think we forget that. So I wouldn't say geographically, it doesn't make, you know what I mean? It doesn't, you know, I wouldn't really focus on that. Also, even industry-based, those people that you know, like, and trust need to know what you do. I cannot tell you how many people have no idea what their, I mean, again, what their uncle does, what their brother-in-law does for a living. Meanwhile, they're out there scouring LinkedIn. Meanwhile, Bob has the connection that you need. He just doesn't know what you do, right? And so there's a tragedy in that, because it's not even about Bob. It's about Bob's best friend's wife. And I know that that sounds like the 6 degrees of Cheldin, but that is how it works. And if people don't know, it doesn't exist. So think about it that way. If you do not share what you do, then you do nothing. You don't do anything. Because as far as you're just hanging out, right? And so as much as you're like burning the midnight oil, if you don't share it, you don't have to brag about it. You don't have to overshare it. You don't have to post 17 times a day, but it has to live somewhere in order for it to exist and to be truth. And so that's what I share. It's just, you know, it just, everything that you're putting out doesn't need to be, you don't have to be sharing your burgers, but you have to be justifying what it is that you want. You have to make sure that if you're asking for something, that I can go find the reasons why you deserve it without having to ask you, because the majority of the major decisions in your life will happen when you're not in the room. The account that you're trying to get, the promotion, you're not part of those negotiations. People are talking about you without you participating. So how can we ensure that they have the information that they need in order to make the decision in your favor? Like that is the point of social media for me. And like, so I was also talking to people this week and they're like, I'm a YouTuber. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm a TikToker. No, you aren't. You are a content creator that uses TikTok. Like, you are not being paid by these, even though you're making this little bit of money for everybody likes and like, people are too consumed with the platforms and not what we are creating ourselves. These are tools in which we use to communicate who we are. They are not who we are. Why? Because Vine is gone, and so is MySpace. And so if you were a MySpacer, you would be completely nothing at this particular point. And so right now it's about, so everybody's like, I want to be a YouTube, like I want to be really popular on TikTok. You've got to create a business outside of that platform. Because if you do not, when they decide to shut off, not saying that they will, but you can't be consumed on a platform in which you do not own. So that's really what it is for me. I mean, because we're not, I'm an emailer. No, you're not. Because I use email? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's crazy. Like, I'm a really popular emailer. No, you're not. Like, I just use email to tell my story, right? And so I think that it's getting dangerous in that way. So don't be consumed with trying to be on all the platforms. You just need to be found by people that need what you have.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Cheldin, I'm going to use your language. How can we fan, follow, and like you? Where can we find you?
Oh my goodness. You can find us.
Keep up with your work.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Everywhere you find at This Is It TV, you can follow us on social. All our latest episodes and segments can be found at thisisit.tv. And more information about our company and all that we do, blogs, etc., can be found at thisisittv.com.
Oh, Cheldin, thank you so much for being an extraordinary human, and B, for joining us here today. This has been just a wonderful, wonderful workshop. And I thank our guests, our audience for coming. If you guys aren't members of the Conspiracy of Goodness Network, we run these events. As a member, you get to come to these events for free, as well as another event we do at the beginning of each month, where we talk to thought leaders like Cheldin in a much more conversational way to learn about their life stories and where they came from. It really is an incredible space for us to be pushing goodness forward, to be working in the spirit of knowing that goodness is an ecosystem, to be helping one another in the way that Cheldin is helping us here. I can certainly see a space in which we create somewhere on the network where we start to do our pitches, where we give ourselves places to practice. Because listen, your family either doesn't know what you do or is sick of hearing your message, and maybe we need some new ears. Plus, your mom loves everything you do. So I think that there's a great place to do that. So I want to welcome people who are new here and who are old friends, or thank you so much, Cheldin, for being a part of this. Thank you to all of you for coming. I will be sending out a recording of this so you can grab some glean the insights, if you will. And then of course, we will always have this on the network. It'll always be sitting there if you want to revisit it over and over again and don't want to search through your emails. So thank you so much, Cheldin. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Bye, guys.